What's up? I'm going to have to unmute Mo. I had to mute him earlier because he is a pen clicker, but we are here.
Yep.
We're ready to rock. It is Friday. I've got Las Vegas senior trader from WinBet, Motoi Pearson here. Just he looks a little nicer. He put on a nicer shirt for this week. Feels a little more professional. We get the actual screen up here today, and yeah, we're gonna go over a few games.
Yeah.
Are you
No,
are you there?
no, I'm glad to be back, man. What's the deal? What's going on?
Well, anybody who had the 13 and a half last night's feeling pretty good. Anybody who had Tennessee at any numbers feeling pretty bad because I probably should have covered. But yeah, we'll go into the weekend here. We don't have pro football yet. We'll get into pros next week. Then I'll take a heavier hand into this, and obviously we'll get to basketball sooner than later. It's gonna get basketballish soon. But
Of
for now, just football, mostly college football, and yeah, we're gonna touch on some games. These are handpicked by again Mr. Pearson here, kind of picking out some games that he thinks are interesting to talk about. We had a couple that some users reached out. One of my producers just wanted me to touch on the Army game. I don't even know if I will do that. It's poor Matt. But yeah, we are starting. I think we have a Friday game later we'll get to because it's in the extra rotation. But right off the bat, Stanford at Kansas State. This kind of meets the criteria for last one. I feel like this made its way into a Slack chat Steam bet thing that kind of got a little wild. I might have a little
Yeah.
bit of Stanford +3. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
good.
No, it's. I mean, just the way that this. The side in itself when it came out, it was. One of the respected books opened 2.5 on K State. It immediately got bought. Stanford bettors came in. I think they bet it all the way to pick, even +1, +2, or -1, -2 Stanford. Which I initially thought was the right side until we had some groups come back and they released K State at +1 pick, which I was like, okay, that's fair. They ended up buying that up, and then it was like another order on K State at -2, 2.5, all the way to 3 now, which like the market is essentially kind of froze up at. But not much in the as far as the total is concerned, but it's pretty interesting to see the number kind of move in Stanford's way, and then automatically get blasted back towards the Wildcats.
Yeah, and we're still kind of in that week zero like mindset as far as these lines have been up forever. Like once we get to next week and we start talking college, it'll be like, all right, these unless they were game of the years where some people could get a little bit down, like these are numbers that got put up on Sunday. Like they got put up after we saw a week of action, after we got some games, and once we get to that, it'll be a little more normalcy because these numbers, some of them have yo-yoed for weeks on end, especially this. So, I mean, yeah, if you don't know what we're talking about, there is a Slack channel that releases plays, and a lot of people will bet them all at the same time. So, I believe it was K State pick, maybe +1. And then like
Yeah.
20 minutes later, it is K State -3. And like I said, sometimes I'll take the other side too. So I'm not even sitting. If I don't get the best of the number on one of those, if I forget about it, I'll just take the best of the number on the other side. And apparently,
Sure.
the whole world. I hurried up and got that, and the whole world can sit there and bet Stanford +3 if they want right now. So I'm betting on a really shitty team, but it's two pretty bad teams here. But that's early noon. These are Eastern times. If anybody, we're just gonna cater to you East Coast elites, even though neither of us is in that time zone. This is a early game. Second one off the docket was the Marshall Navy total. I believe we wanted to talk about here.
Yeah. Yeah. It was the total. I think it's 47 now. Got bet up from 45.5, give or take. Um, I think that's correct.
That
Should
sounds
I
about right.
honestly know? Um, yeah, I think that was one of our guys shouted us out to talk about this. So I hope we can give some decent information on what's going on. But I think just as far as from what we've seen, ticket count wise, it hasn't been the most popular game, so to speak. So I mean, as far as the movement on the total, it wasn't. We didn't see a lot of respected action or any action that we would see the concern on moving the total. I just know like between Navy and their quarterback issues from last year, they're just a big tempo team on the way that they run their offense. I think we opened up a little bit lower. I think 45, something around that. And Marshall was just an absolute disaster on offense for like the last 4 or 5 games. Considering they got Grant Wells, solid quarterback. The offense was just lackluster, and the defense carried them to a bunch of wins, a lot that didn't matter. But I would kind of lean on the underside of this if I had the chance.
You get the best of the number, and yeah, I'm gonna have to like email Lindy at the beginning of the or before we do these and be like, hey, what did you open these at? Just out of
A
curiosity, so
hundred
we actually
percent.
have
I'm
to
never
have the
gonna
number.
remember him either.
No,
He's
like
gonna hate.
we have to write it
Well,
down.
I'll ask him. I'll be like, hey, what did we open this at? And then like there'll be like no response. I'll be like, all right, good talk. Like nice. Like I'm
Well,
gonna figure it out at some point.
people are
I
busy.
should be
You
remembering
look
it
like you're in a
anyway. So
nicer conference room today, at least.
it's a little bit. Upgrade.
Upgrade. Well, it is Friday. Yeah, that was a user. And yeah, you mentioned that one not taking a lot of money, not getting a lot of action. It is Marshall versus Navy. This isn't Randy
Sure.
Moss, Pennington. God, who's the running back?
I don't know. When
Chapman?
was that early '90s?
No, like mid 90s. Randy Moss was like 96, 97,
Got drafted '97,
98.
something like
And then you had Chad
that.
Pennington.
Okay.
You had a running back too that was very good. And then it's been shit for 20 years. But fun team, good movie. Otherwise, we're on to a game where there probably is a decent ticket count in Bama, Miami. And this is, you joked about this off air a little about like never knowing where games were being played last year because Corona stuff. But like just early on in the season, you do have some neutral site stuff for reasons beyond that. And this game is in the Mercedes Benz. I was almost going to say Mercedes Benz Superdome. It feels like they're all named Mercedes Benz down in the South. It's the Mercedes
Yeah,
Benz
that's
Georgia
it's
Dome. I
just
don't know
about.
what it's
I
called.
think
Just
I'm
the
gonna just start doing that. I'm just every game in a dome. I'm just gonna be like, yes, it's at the Mercedes Benz.
the
I don't care where
Mercedes.
it's at.
Either way, Hotlanta. They hate it when you say that. I've been informed, but
Yeah,
Atlanta, Georgia Superdome, and yeah, Bama 19 and a half, 61 for a total, and
we've seen. Well, it opened shorter, 15 and a half, 16, to my what I can remember, and then it just, immediately got bet up. It's not hard to see Alabama getting the best of the action, especially when the sharper guys think the line's too low because in a openers for Alabama they usually crush their opponents. We didn't get to see last year where they were supposed to play USC, and I think it was also supposed to be in the dome or in the Mercedes-Benz Dome, and then that got canceled due to COVID. So usually we wait for the number to get high enough so we can get bet against Bama and regret it. All of us as a whole that are trying to outsmart Bama, and they end up winning by 30 every time. But up to right now, I think we have it at 18 and a half, and it's probably the most popular team that's on parlays that I know of right now here at WinBet. Alabama's almost like a free space to most. Doesn't matter what the number is; they just want to throw Alabama on there and get a couple other teams to try to get a winner on Saturday.
well, like the money line are talking, or what? Are people nuts? Like adding
No,
3 extra cents there?
no, they're just laying. They're laying 18 and a half. It's essentially like a straight up bet for a lot of these. Saying the name and not really knowing much about Miami, even though Derek King should be awesome and the team should be great, but Bama and openers, it's tough to beat them.
Yeah, that's what somebody brought that up this morning. There was a bit of an argument in the chat, or not a good discussion. It was like, hey, yeah, Miami has a bunch of NFL players on it, but Bama has had how many months to prepare for this game, and like a good coach with good players. It's super, and it's like, the joke they reload and reload, but yeah, they just 4 first round receivers in 2 years. Like, what
Yeah,
what were the guys like? You can say, oh, those guys are gone, but like those guys are all crazy good. Like the guys behind those guys might be crazy good too. It's like you
yeah,
just don't know until there's going to be a lot of learning this week. We talked a little about LSU this morning too. I've decided that's just going to be kind of a bit of a learning game for me because I don't know what to do with it. I think we're going to talk about them yet, but yeah,
yeah,
Bama first half. That was the actual free square the last couple
yeah.
years.
That was yeah. We haven't. Well, I don't know if we put that out yet, but I know as soon as up to game time, the first half ticket count will just be as absurd as the full game.
Sure, sure. Oh, next we have, and that one is a 3:30 Saturday game. This one is a night game. Oh, I did bring it up. LSU, number 16 LSU, which may be a team that's not going to have a number before their name after a few weeks here. the preseason, non-conference isn't too bad, but LSU, UCLA, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Saturday. LSU's a 3-point favorite, 65 for total. Nice high total here. UCLA
Yeah,
was a fun bet against early last season when they just couldn't figure life out, and
yeah,
honestly, the same thing for the basketball team. I feel like a bet pull against both of these teams early on in the season. All the Bruins. It didn't work out for me at the end of the season, obviously, with
yeah.
those
Just
goddamn.
made a small run to the Final Four. Nothing crazy.
Yeah, real pain in my ass, honestly, with some of the futures and some of my brackets and whatnot. No one cares about my brackets, but yeah, we talked about this a little this morning, and actually with Falika, and he said this is probably one of the most intriguing markets. Look here, your take, and have you taken much on either side or total here?
Yeah, I think from what I've seen, or just like glancing at the market in itself, I think the under has taken quite a bit of a whack as far as bets are concerned. I think it 71.70 was the opener. It's down to 65 now. You know, it's I think now we're kind of from what we've seen in the UCLA game. It's a small sample size, obviously, and they didn't really. I'm assuming they didn't run as many packages as they run into on offense because they kind of had their way with Hawaii. But it seems like they're going to be running the ball a lot with Charbonnet and Brown, and try to help DTR out more. As far as from a turnover type of deal, kind of keep him more confident. So I think running the ball might be a big deal for UCLA, which kind of goes into controlling the tempo, which is good for an under in something like this. LSU starting Max Johnson, lefty quarterback, who I think should be somewhat better than forgetting the other quarterback's name that was supposed to start, but I think he tore his ACL. So I don't know. And then another year where LSU has to rebuild from the Joe Burrow that offense with Brady in there. And then last year was some type of COVID deal, and a lot of the other guys left. That were solid on that offense. I think it's just going to be tough to really see both of these offenses kind of getting going because LSU's defense is going to be awesome going into the game. I'm strong on UCLA. I was already high on them before the Hawaii game, and going into this, I respect the move on UCLA from 3 to 2.5. I think it should be closer to pick, in my opinion. It being a true home game for UCLA, I think there's going to be a better team going into this year.
Yeah, and again, I'm not like a college football hardo. I'm trying my best to immerse myself in it this year, but some guy pointed that out. Like I made a joke when they looked like shit, LSU, that is, at the beginning of the season last year. I'm like, oh, apparently having, and then I listed off like the 12 guys they had drafted mattered. And one guy's like, you didn't even mention because the Jamar Chase, like I didn't even mention him. Like, oh
Right.
yeah, like I forgot all about that. Yeah, he matters too. Plus probably Joe Brady and like everything. So I mean, it's kind of like a make or break. It's not like Orgeron's hot seat, but make or break season is a little like, man, Ed, are you even a good coach, or are you just kind of a
Right.
cool
Yeah.
Cajun weirdo? And Brady and Burrow kind of put this over the top, and what we saw last year was more of what we're gonna get. So, like I said,
Yeah.
we talked about it this morning on Brown Bag, and I leaned on Mr. Falika there because he's actually calling us from Charlotte, where he's doing game day tomorrow. So
Nice.
he better know more about college football than I. But yeah, even I think he was kind of staying away from this one as well. But yeah, if you wanted the under, you're about a week late, buddy. When did this open? Curious, because we're talking game one lines have been out for a while. Not only when did it
Oof.
open, but when were limits brought to anything decent?
I think we did it. Our limits. I think it was Tuesday or Monday. I think it was one Monday when we bumped them, but hard to say for any other shops that probably had this up or when they had the total up. I can't say when we. I mean, obviously we opened the totals first. I think it was about three weeks ago, give or take. But limits probably got bumped somewhere around this week, maybe Monday or Tuesday, to get any legit action down on totals for college football.
Yeah, it still is a total, guys. It's going to be harder to get money down on these just in general if you're coming down to the counter and max betting this with a giant bag of money. Oklahoma, Tulane, Green Wave. If anybody knows where Tulane is, it is right where the hurricane was. They've had a lot of Super Bowls in that stadium like 70 years ago. They used to have a lot of games down there before they had good stadiums, before they had their own Mercedes Benz down there. But yeah, Tulane was affected by the storms. So this was moved to Oklahoma because of Hurricane Ida. We got Oklahoma laying 4.5
31.
touchdowns,
Yeah,
31 and a
30,
half.
31 and a half now.
We grabbed them from the WinBet Jersey app this morning. WinBet has 31 and a half, 67 and a half. And I mean, did you see anything after the move? Also, did you cancel tickets? We'll get to this a little in NFL as well.
Yeah, we voided out the tickets that were already on. So anyone that got, Oklahoma 22 and a half, 24 and a half, they're, somewhat ruined in their soul. But yeah, I just thought this was more of an interesting game because of what's going on with Tulane, and I think they're practicing in the Tide Stadium. Nick Saban gave them their practice facility to get ready for the Oklahoma game, which I thought was pretty cool.
Huge heart on that guy.
Yeah. Oh, I thought Saban was just scouting him. He's just like, no, I need the information on Tulane, just for future references. But
Find him on the schedule next year.
of course, yeah. He's like,
Yeah.
no, I got them all. I know everything about that team. Yeah, no. As far as this is concerned, Oklahoma, who I thought the number was pretty good. As far as it getting to 27 and a half, them playing a true home game now, it being 31, I thought it was legit. It's just another one of those games I wanted to talk about just because of the ticket count. No shock that Oklahoma is just as surprising as a bet as Miami is against Miami, Alabama is against Miami, Florida. So I just to pick on something like that where you might see a little bit more movement in the market on Oklahoma leading up to kickoff in that game. I'm a big supporter of Oklahoma football, but there's going to be some buyback when this number kind of gets kicked up a little bit. Moving towards game time.
Yeah, and it is again another early game, so maybe something to keep an eye on tomorrow morning. Any movement on that total or any thoughts on it? I mean, essentially,
No,
you're saying you're expecting Tulane to score a bit.
yeah, I would say Tulane, should have. I don't think they're like a letdown team or anything like that. I think they're pretty, focused. I like the coaching there. They should come out, strong, but I don't know if they'll be able to. When Oklahoma scores, 50 or 60 points on them, it'd be tough to hang with them later in that game.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's kind of what happens, and just day goes in, day goes out. The sun comes up, and Oklahoma puts out a quarterback that goes in the draft. So high in the draft,
Exactly. Yeah.
many times.
Heisman Trophy, all that, everything, the works.
This is one kind of my nemesis here. Not really from a betting standpoint. I'm not sure. I have bet on this team definitely in games, but where I come from and I met my wife out at South Dakota State, so we're not a big fan of the Coyotes.
Jackrabbits.
Yeah, Coyotes and Jackrabbits. They don't get along. That's like it used to be the arch nemesis, but they didn't transition to D1 as fast. So there's like a
Sure.
few years. It's like, oh, do we hate North Dakota State now, or who's the enemy? But yeah, the is it Yankton or Vermilion? We're gonna go with Vermilion. USD, South Dakota at Kansas. Look for this under your look for this under your extra games. You guys are hanging at 12, and honestly, I wouldn't just popped around because some of these extra games get a little weird in the market. Somebody else,
Yeah.
a market making book that they are a bookmaker who makes book. They are hanging a 9.5 minus 31, which is that's just not going to go to 10.
Yeah,
Not going to
talk
give you
about a
South
lean.
Dakota plus 10.
Yeah, no, for what we're offering now, it's not getting too much action as it should for the most part. But yeah, I think a respected book or somewhat of a respected book opened this line at 15 and a half, and I texted you immediately. I was like, yeah, this this is kind of high, especially for Kansas' sake and what they got going on for the program with Leopold, the Buffalo's head coach, taking over there now. So, I 9.5, 30, I think is a pretty strong, but I would be leaning somewhat towards that way below 10, kind of going forward in a game like this. South Dakota's solid. They only played a few games in the spring. They're in the Missouri Valley Conference as well, so they play, those are the toughest teams in the FCS. South Dakota State, North Dakota State, Missouri State, all those guys are legit. But, a team like this who's, pretty strong, pretty football oriented, I think, in my opinion, Getting double digits against Kansas should be fine. Considering Kansas is also Kansas, it's hard to not bet against them when they're laying all those points.
Yeah, Bill Self can't help you. This is
Yeah,
it's not a
he's
it's
not going
not
to
a
be
foot
anything.
it's not a football school. And yeah,
You
I
can't
was gonna
draw.
ask. You would know the answer to this because you guys actually put out futures on this. But did they make the FCS playoffs? I feel like they didn't because it was just such a tough conference.
No, they did not. They did not. They went, I think, 1-4. They only played 5 games,
Oh yeah,
but
spring
they
spring
played
ball
like
is
the
weird.
best team. They played like North Dakota. They played like two of the 4 games they played. Two of those teams went to the playoff. I think that was North Dakota and Missouri State. So I mean, they played some pretty tough teams
The
in the 4 games they
Grizzlies,
played.
the old Missouri State Grizz. I think I'm
Yeah,
not sure. That might be right.
Bobby Petrino, my guy
Oh yeah,
Petrino.
Jesus.
Yeah,
I
man.
did thoroughly enjoy spring
He'll
ball.
never die. That guy can't die. He's on a list of people that'll never die. Petrino's in there.
No,
Rick Pitino's in there too.
he's a
Basically anybody
he's
that
a
rhymes with
Highlander.
Pitino or Petrino will never die.
God, we're just riling up the citizens of Atlanta right now. Like if we're gonna say Hotlanta, not know what their stadium's called, and then bring up Bobby Petrino, like none of those things are making our Atlanta crowd happy. We're sorry. And guess what?
Oh,
I really like Outcast. You know what? Those guys are great. And
Outcast is dope.
The TV show Atlanta was really good. We're gonna say some
Atlanta's
nice
dope.
things.
Yeah.
We're gonna say some nice things about Atlanta to kind of make up for that
Those are
chicanery
some
there.
good things you just said. I like it. I'm
Well,
there.
you know what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? We're gonna try to make up. Making amends there. Um, Another one, and maybe just kind of go over the rules, maybe at WinBet, and maybe talk about. I mean, you guys are pretty standard. It's pretty standard in the industry. Packers Saints game. Honestly, we've talked to a couple people who are down there. I know some people who live in New Orleans, and
Nolans. Yeah.
I mean, there's some parts of the city that are gonna get power back soonish, but the Superdome takes a lot of power. And again, it's not called the Superdome. This one is legitimately another Mercedes. No, they named it Caesars. Didn't Caesars get? Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah. Caesar's
sorry,
Superdome. The
sorry to
Caesar's Superbook.
bringing up a competitor there, but you
Yeah,
maybe
but I mean, it's within football, so it's fine.
yeah, it's
I
fine.
think.
Maybe we need the WinBet Metrodome. I wish they wouldn't have torn that down. But Packers Saints, yes, moved to Jacksonville, which kind of chintzy. Man, Jacksonville gets hit with storms too. It's not like there hasn't been a storm in the East Coast, so hopefully
Yeah.
the weather's fine for that. It'd be really funny if they had to move it again. Not really for anybody involved, but yeah.
Well, that's yeah. I'm
What
not
was
ruling
the
anything out either. I mean, it could easily happen.
yeah? So what are you doing with the tickets now? Like everything canceled on that as well because of change of venue.
Yeah, yeah. Everything's been voided out. Anybody that got Packers +3 when Rodgers got announced in, and as the line kind of
Oh,
got brought up as far as the tragedy that's going on in Louisiana right now, which is unfortunate. But as far as everyone betting, they're just like, yeah, I'm still going to take Packers no matter what. And I'm like, well, that okay, I get it. So yeah, everyone betted up to 4.5, which is what it is now. But then everyone relinquishes those or has to let go of those bets, considering that the move to Jacksonville came. So yeah, we voided everything out. We got the new lines up. It's funny, like not much with the total. Kind of got crushed there. I think it's still 50. It's been around
yeah.
50 the whole time. But yeah, I mean the 4.5 right now looks pretty solid as far as the market's concerned, and the bets that we got up to it when people stopped betting it before the locations changed.
And that's what I'm wondering too. Is same thing with the Oklahoma number. Like after you void these tickets and then repost the market, be like, all right, here's the number. We're in Jacksonville. We're in Norman. Like, do you just see a flush of bets from people? Because honestly, like I had to do that with Temple. They just moved the day, and my book
Yeah,
canceled. I'm like, and it wasn't up. I'm like, I need to set like a calendar reminder to bet Temple 14.5 again now because it's not up yet. And it's like, set a reminder to remind me in like 3 hours to check again.
that's
Otherwise,
it.
I
Yeah,
want to have
the
Temple
phone
on.
would just be going off at all times once you start throwing that stuff in, which would
Yeah,
be incredible anyway.
I just put it on my
Yeah,
daily,
no,
just put it on the daily list, you know?
we yeah. When stuff like that happens, as far as Mother Nature is concerned, or any issues like that, we'll see plenty of ticker or bets at the ticker, and there's if even if we don't know anything like what's going on in the world, if we see like 40 people hit Oklahoma, we're like, there's something happening like right now on the planet. Same thing with Green Bay and with the issues that are going on in Louisiana. But it's funny to be tipped off by something on the ticker and not to watch the news. Like you see like a whole bunch of Oklahoma bets come up, and you're like, well, something bad happened to someone, or just like lightning struck this school, or whatever the case may be. But you kind of figure it out by how many bets and the amount of bets and the people that are betting that they got the upper hand on something that we're kind of lagging on at that time.
Oh yeah, I mean, the same thing with the players that were out for Ohio State last night. Like when you hear about that is 4 hours after the Minnesota Steam. Like
Yeah,
somebody
exactly.
has a trainer in there who's texting them or something, and that they're hitting it and telling their groups, and like that's the thing. If you see some heavy steam on game day on a market that's kind of sat pat for a while, sometimes you just have to sit there and wait for it. And it's funny, like
Yeah.
watching the ticker and stuff. It reminds me of again, I'm just gonna keep mentioning competitors. I'll see if I can get them all on the show at one time. But when we talked to Dylan Sullivan on the deep dive earlier in the spring
Dylan. Oh,
about the draft, Dylan's a good
I
kid.
hate that guy.
No,
No, I'm kidding. No, that's my guy. I love Dylan,
but
man. No, I'm kidding.
when we had him on, he was like talking about the draft, like moving draft props. He's like, yeah, I just sit on Twitter and like refresh stuff and try to figure out. He's like, if two really big bets came in on one player, I have to like go check Twitter and be like, what happened? Like, why is this? Why did Kellen Mond just get maxed over twice?
You just like in the room, it'll be, obviously where we're moving our lines and then the ticker. And then like we'll have like 30 tabs up of like, Twitter, Tweet Deck, all types of Google pages, like just refreshing, kind of, going through checking news. And, same thing is like obviously that the draft was a bigger issue. And, anybody getting hit, like the Mac Jones stuff, I know he was all over it, in that aspect.
Oh yeah. Um, I'd be I'd be a real heel if I didn't give the people a promo.
Of
A fun
course.
bet. And again, I don't have much for college, and there's plenty. Go log on to WinBet, and there's plenty of college promos. But Mo had a pretty fun one for not only NFL but the first NFL game. You want to explain this to me? And actually, well, like, how much can I put on this too?
Well, so it's going to be something that we're going to be doing going forward. Triple the spread is the name of the promo, and it'll be bigger for the NFL games. One that we're promoting now heavily is the Cowboys Bucks, in which that spread right now is Bucks minus 7.5, and we're offering 22.5 to the for any Cowboys bettors. Cowboys plus 22.5. I think usually it's going to be the dog more or less, but it's a $20 max. If anybody wants to come sign up, it's a pretty legit promo. The best handicappers don't need to know that Cowboys plus 22.5 is a good bet. And it's something that we want to, kind of reach out with a lot of the NFL games, going forward, not just Thursday, but, what we'll see on Sunday as well.
Yeah, you take Dallas plus 22.5, and then you take your $500 risk free on the sign up and put it on Tampa.
Yeah, done.
It's
But
that easy. One of those
you
is,
just
well,
sit back,
yeah, you have a nice little middle.
hang out, grab a
Hit them both,
drink.
and it's risk free.
Yeah, you're
Honestly, the
just, you can
risk free
hang
bet
out. Yeah.
is so. Yeah, 22 and a
You
half.
let
Yeah,
your friends know.
you don't need a promo code. You don't need anything silly. Just get the WinBet app, and it'll be right on there. Tell me before I
Yeah.
let you go too, because I do have things to do. It's a Friday afternoon. I can't hang out with you all day, but the Arizona thing. What's that? What's happening there? Are you live? Are we
So what
almost?
I think right now we're so I think we got everything up that we need to, and we're working on registrations right now. I think next week will be the time when we're ready to launch Arizona. I know it's still in the works right now, and I'm gonna have to talk to some other people if this is legit or not. But I know registrations is something that we're working on right now, which is should be up. They should be able to get into AZ here shortly if they can't now. At least next week going into the football season. That's something that they can, hit me up or hit up WinBet about on Twitter. Going forward, if they have any questions, obviously BetSperts, if they want to hit you up, they can, ask us as a whole. Um, but yeah, I know next week it should be a bigger deal for anybody to sign up for Arizona. I know
It's
there's a lot.
fun. I
There's a
actually
lot of
know
stuff
people
going on
there.
right now.
Yeah, I can actually get you some signups this time. I know. I didn't know anybody in like Indiana. I guess I knew a few people,
How
but
do you not know anybody in Indiana? I know
I
like 40 people in Indiana.
really. I'm just
No,
more of a. I know people
not
around
even
here.
close.
Yeah. What about Iowa? Put Iowa on the list. Then I'll go get another account. I have a Colorado
You,
account.
you've been grilling me about Iowa for months.
I'll live. We'll get there. We'll get there. Football season's right here, man, Mo. All right.
Yeah,
Motoi Pearson, WinBet senior trader. I do thank WinBet and his bosses for letting him sneak out of work for a half hour on a Friday. Talk to me. We'll leave it at that. If you have any other questions, hit us up. Sorry, Matt, we didn't get to the Notre Dame line. It's because Notre Dame sucks.
they're
Like
terrible.
they're just not good. Actually, take the 7 now. If you want to bet the 7, bet the 7. At least you didn't go with the homer bet and bet the 9.5. We'll get to more questions next week. I'll actually put the tweet up a little earlier so we can get a few people to do our job for us and pick the games to talk about, and we'll try to answer those. And with that, Mo,
I appreciate it, man. Another great show.
I think so.
I'm glad for you having me on, and this is awesome. Just doing, and talking about stuff like this.
And we'll chop it up this time next week, live from Vegas. See you then.
Whew.